Dear family, I have decided to take my own life. I am happy to simply give in to the inevitable rather than prolong the insufferable. With love, Cal.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors and ideators so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough, and when we do talk about it, when we engage with people in any kind of pain, we're not very good at it. Most of us are quite bad at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations and hopefully better conversations with survivors, in large part to help more people in more places hopefully feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Now, if you are a suicide attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. You can learn more about this podcast on the website suicidenoted.com, as well as the podcast description and in the show notes. You can help us out by rating 5 stars, please, on Apple, and contributing, answering our weekly, sometimes bi-weekly poll on Spotify. Now, sometimes on Spotify, it's a little tricky to find. You gotta click the episode. You will see a brief description of the episode, then see more. If you click there, you'll get all that other stuff I was talking about with respect to contacting me, supporting the podcast, social media, and so on. Below that are chapters, auto-generated. This has been part of Spotify's thing for about a year or so not all of the episodes have that. Under that, if there are any comments, you will see the comments, then that poll. Below that, you will see episode transcript, if you prefer to read or read while you listen. Apple, a little bit more straightforward. A few other things before we get started today. If you are or know somebody who is a documentary film producer or knows somebody, I would really like to talk with them. We've got some great footage from the tour, among other places, and I'd like to make a little movie. So please put me in touch with this person if you can. Finally, many of you know it is rather hard to raise funds for this podcast and for me to be able to do all the things I want to do. If you know of a person or an organization that might want to bring me, or perhaps a guest, or more than one guest in to speak, that might be free, that might be paid, please let me know. Also, if you know of any organization or person, more than likely working at a college or university, that may have an interest in licensing some of this material for teaching or research or some other purposes, also let me know. I will pay you. The details are to be determined. I will be fair. I'm doing the very best I can to reach out to people that I know, people that listen to the podcast, people that support the podcast. It's a hell of a lot easier than blasting off a bunch of cold emails. But I'm going to do that too. We are talking about suicide on this podcast, as you know, as we do every week. My guests and I do not hold back, so please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. Today I am talking with Cal. Cal lives in California, and he is a suicide attempt survivor. Hey, Cal. You can hear me, you said, right?
I can hear you, yes.
Wait, I can hear you too. That means we can do a podcast, hopefully. Maybe. Try.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, this is already like many more dimensions than I'm used to listening to your podcast. Like actually interacting with you and seeing you is pretty amazing.
Oh, well, that's a nice thing to say. I appreciate it. You got a good look yourself.
Thank you.
So let me, thanks for doing this and talking with me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. You do a service to the global community.
What community is that? Really, what is it? I'm not sure myself.
Well, I think suicidality is something that's experienced, as you know, by millions. And I think that my experience of it is unique to myself. But suicidality, generally speaking, is something that a lot of people experience. And like anything that a lot of people experience, if it isn't spoken about or or analyzed or accepted, then it can be a worse experience than otherwise if nobody talked about it.
In your experience, this is a little bit of a loaded question, admittedly, but I welcome pushback or different points of view. I really
Please,
do.
please.
And I know I get a certain, probably tends to get human being who's mostly on board with my thoughts, so they probably wouldn't ever even reach out. However, given what you just said, I'm wondering, in my experience, one of my frustrations is that all of the talk and the narratives, so to speak, the rhetoric, if you will, around suicide, which often gets classified into maybe awareness, more often prevention, does a lot of things that actually don't do what you said in terms of, I'm paraphrasing here, but really talking about it.
Right. Well, I mean, I personally feel that I'm just speaking from my own life experience. Most people do not feel
Mhm.
comfortable talking about it. I think
Right.
that while this is an experience that is shared by, millions, it's not necessarily experienced
Mhm.
by all people. And so if the
Sure.
topic itself is uncomfortable for people, or just speaking for myself, if I'm feeling suicidal, I don't know who to talk to about it. And your podcast has provided me a lot of solace. I've probably listened to maybe about, like, I'm just going to guesstimate, like 45 or 50 of your podcasts. It is a very wide, spectrum of people coming from all different perspectives. But of those 45, 50 people, there was one or two where I'm like, I get that person.
Right.
And I'm able to feel a sense of community. I forget what it's called, like a parasocial relationship, with the caller, and this show facilitates that. And so
Mm.
I think it's helpful in that sense. But if I was to talk, and this includes therapists,
Yeah,
I've
sure.
had experience where I've spoken to suicide with therapists, and it's been helpful in the sort of like immediate, like, deep breath exercise kind of situations.
Mhm.
I remember a therapist, like when I started therapy, one of the first question was like, do you have a gun in your house? And I think that just on a fundamentally medical level, it makes sense. But I don't know that I've ever really in my own life experience been able to speak about suicide in a way that was fully, like, comfortable, like I'm doing with you now. Like I feel comfortable about it now because I feel like suicide and suicidality is so accepted within the suicide noted universe. I mean, hearing you talk to people, who are, actively planning, and just
Mm.
listening to them is
Mhm.
actually very comforting because there is no, I have to react in a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm frustrated, Cal. I'm not gonna get into my shit, but like because I think it's weird. It's like someone's feeling a certain way, and really, if you break down how most people react most of the time, what they're really doing is saying, "Don't feel that way. You can't feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. Stop feeling that way."
Right.
But the
Well,
problem is, I'm feeling that way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was in preparation for our meeting. I actually found my suicide note.
Oh,
So I was wondering if I could read. Now I made name changes in it for privacy sake, but
mhm.
I'm okay telling you that I wrote it December 3rd, 2023.
Okay, so we're coming up on 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. I was gonna lead off with, reading a little part of the email you sent me because that frames things well. How but
Yeah.
your idea is kinda cool too, the note, because this isn't that common on here.
Yeah, yeah, I would be happy to read it, and then we can even discuss the email afterwards.
So this is your note from December 3rd, 2023. And I want you to read it at your own pace, and I will not cut anything in editing. This is Natural Cal.
Dear family, I have decided to take my own life. The hardest part of this decision is the effect it will have on my daughter and my loved ones. I am sorry. The fact is, I'm usually unhappy. I am ashamed of the things that are important to me: music, sex, and silliness. I'm just tired of suffering, and I feel guilty for even writing that. I
Hmm.
just don't want to feel anything anymore. I'm sorry. I know my absence will have a profoundly negative effect on my immediate family. It is my sincere hope that my daughter, mom, girlfriend, brother, and ex wife are able to continue in better spirits than I could. This world was not meant for me. I am happy to simply give in to the inevitable rather than prolong the insufferable. With love, Cal. So that's it.
That's it. Have you ever read that aloud?
No, no, I've never read it aloud. I mean, I don't remember writing it per se, but I remember the circumstance of writing it, which was in a Google Doc, when I'm feeling profoundly sad and, really feeling like I can't go on anymore.
Yeah. How long? This might be a little bit of a weird question. And of course,
Okay.
we'll get into the circumstances because that's essentially like a lot of your
Mhm.
part of your story. How long does it take you to write something like that and say, I'm done with the note?
Well, I mean, the way my brain works is I will write it and then read it and read it and read it, and I'll keep reading it like probably like 15 or 20 times and make little edits here and there. It's definitely how I was feeling. And this is not conversely, but like several years before that.
Mhm.
And I know you asked the question about attempts or anything like that, so I'm speaking extemporaneously right now, so feel free to stop me or start me. But several years before that, when I was really feeling bad about my marriage was kind of coming apart, and I had all of these sad feelings which I felt my whole life, and I did put a belt around my neck, and I was inebriated on alcohol, and I was doing it more just so I could feel the feeling of the belt around my neck.
Mhm.
But that
Mhm.
was a real turning point for me because I realized that whether intentionally or unintentionally, this was high risk behavior, and I could very much end up killing myself, even though I wanted to and I wanted to feel it. I might not have wanted to, but I was also drunk. And so that was actually the moment when like I decided I needed to start seeing a therapist. So,
Right. Well, some people would. Now, this is what you get to decide this. There
mhm.
might be some doctors or experts out there who would disagree with what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Do you think that's a suicide attempt?
I think that, and I'm again only speaking for myself, the suicidality and sadness has permeated my entire life until recently, which we will discuss. The act of suicide, I feel, is an impulsive one. And not to sound weird, but it's like falling in love. It just hits you, and you're like, now's the time,
Oh,
and
okay.
and you're not thinking about it. It's a leap of faith, and that leap of faith is I'm not going to feel pain anymore.
I'm not sure you answered the question.
Ah, thank you. uh, I would say that it was not a suicide attempt in the sense that I decided I'm going to kill myself. Now I'm doing it. It didn't work.
Mhm.
But I would definitely say it's adjacent because I was sort of like playing footsies with wanting to kill myself, and I could have. So
Yeah.
it's in the ballpark for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Here's the email that you sent to me. You wrote, "Hello, Sean," which, by the way, is a very kind way to begin any email. It's very interesting now. This is a good segue from that note in the commentary about it. I am a former ideator. It's not that I never think about killing myself anymore, but it has seriously slowed down since I found out I am autistic about 6 months ago. I'm currently 50, spent my entire life disconnected and out of place. I thought my only reason for being was to help others. He also said sex, music, and being silly was part of it, but that's just me adding something I learned about. I know now that helping others was more of a survival mechanism. Now, that is interesting. I want to talk about that. And then you say something kind about the show and me, which I'll skip because I don't want it to sound about me. And then you said, if there's any insight I can provide about my own struggles, I'd like to talk. And of course, I want to talk. And I said, hell yeah. So December 3rd, 2023, you wrote a note that you shared with us.
Correct.
Pretty sure you don't write that note if you're not ideating it. Maybe even like that's literally a definition of it, like writing a note. You're thinking about it. So something changed. And is it the main thing, the diagnosis?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say, I did not get diagnosed because I was feeling suicidal. I thought that ideation was just going to be a permanent part of my life,
Yeah.
and that life was simply something that I would have to sort of white knuckle my years through, because the cons of hurting people, and I do believe people exist, the cons of hurting other people would be greater than the non existence, which is going to happen anyway,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. I also have experienced within the spectrum of suicidality. For example, during the time when I had the belt around my neck, I was thinking about killing myself so often. And what that looks like, by the way, is just simply like hanging, stabbing, hanging, stabbing. It would just pop
Mm-hmm.
into my head. It's not even an intentional thought. It would just pop into my head. And it was happening with so much frequency, it was actually affecting my ability to work. Like I couldn't focus. It was a complete preoccupation. When I was no longer in a really bad situation, like with my marriage and stuff like that, it got better, but not better in the sense that the suicide thoughts went away completely. It was always kind of there, even during the good times. And so
Right.
I never ever thought it would go away. When I got my assessment, which I did, a lot of it was just so I could make it through work because I was having such a difficult time at work relating to people, but I also needed to work because besides not killing myself, I also need to work to take care of myself and my kid and stuff. I got the assessment and I was surprised. I mean, when I think about myself now, I'm not surprised, but I was very surprised. And I realized that part of the suicidality came from the disconnect, feeling so disconnected from the world and not understanding how to read people and not understanding that I was getting overwhelmed all the time and having zero techniques on how to deal with it. And so I just wanted it to end. And so the diagnosis really provided me tools so that I can manage life better and so that I have more context for why I don't get other people and why they might not get me. And that context is what I think has diminished the suicidality. So it's not that I'm happy all the time. I just don't feel like nothing ever makes any sense and I just want this to be over with.
Wow. Okay. You wonder how many people out there are like you who don't know that they have that.
I mean, I would say that it's a large number. I mean, the autism as a spectrum has increased. I think because I'm able to work and go to school. I mean, school sucked.
Mhm.
It was nothing but summer school. And I got into some really when you take everything literally, life is hard. And when I was in high school, I had a person. I won't call this person a friend, but this person and I definitely had some sort of a codependent relationship. And this person would constantly say that if I had courage, I would kill myself. And I think that they consciously or unconsciously knew that. It's really so hard. But now what's different is that, because it's still, when I go to work, there's still disconnects and stuff like that. But my employer now knows, I'm autistic, and so do the people in my social life. And so when I'm not at work, it's called unmasking. I'm able to just be more myself and not describe it as weird. It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
even though it's different. I know you absolutely hate being complimented, so I'm apologizing to you in advance. But the
Mm.
thing is that your podcast was there not for me, but like I was able to utilize it at a time when I just needed to know that that other people were having this much difficulty, and that the types of personalities were so different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people, maybe they're neurodivergent, maybe they're dealing with, maybe they're trans, maybe they were abused, maybe they have drug issues. It's all different, but the point is they don't want to be here anymore, and it's really helpful to hear that.
Yeah. This is where I struggle. No, this is really where I struggle. And I actually wonder, and I mean this, but I want to be careful with my wording, say,
Oh,
compare conditions. And, I am so confused by it that I often wonder if I have something that I haven't been diagnosed with, because
mhm.
I just can't understand I just don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why we can't talk about it. Now, that might be a weird, I don't know if that's weird for you to hear.
I do empathize with you when it comes to why people feel uncomfortable talking about suicide. We're all gonna die. We
Mm,
all talk about quality of life. Nobody wants to live a shitty life and die. I
mm,
think it makes logical sense to die more than wanting to live a shitty life, as in a vacuum, especially. I mean, if you don't have obligations and life fucking sucks, excuse me for cursing, then it's very logical to want to die. And I would
mhm.
never condemn anybody, not only for thinking that, but I wouldn't condemn somebody for doing it. But not talking about it isn't helping anybody. It's not helping the individual, and it's not helping society. I feel okay saying this. I talk about suicide with my daughter the same way we talk about school or sex or friends or anything else, because
Mm,
suicide, or thoughts of it, are a part of life. And I think that, it's like it can be a symptom. If you're thinking about it a lot, then the question isn't, or it's not about it's bad that you're thinking about suicide. I think the thing is that, like, you just listen, and when the person's talking, as I am talking to you, then they can hear themselves and at least feel heard, that
mm.
they have those feelings. Yeah, it's just as part of life. Yeah, not talking about it is not good for anybody.
Preaching to the choir. What
Yeah, totally.
I
Sorry.
I know there might be certain information you don't wanna share, so you don't identify, but what kind of work do you do?
I definitely don't want to do anything that would be close to shedding any light on my occupation,
Sure.
but I can say that I work with large groups of people in an assistance capacity, and that
Mhm.
my entire life I have worked assisting people in some various form of customer service, because I've always been so out of touch with my own feelings of what makes me happy, that I felt that my purpose in life was to make other people happy. But what I've come to learn is it's not that I actually want to make people happy. I'm just trying to survive. Like, I don't
Mm,
understand how the world works. And so if you say something to me and then I kind of give you what I think you want, then that means that I can continue another day, because I'm so
right.
completely disconnected from what I want.
And you learned at some point helping people in that way or in certain ways, like, you could do it and they'd be appreciative and it wouldn't be all awkward and confusing.
Yeah, particularly if I knew the answer to something. So in a work context, I know what the answer is, and I'm happy to give that answer. Like,
Right.
I'm very bad with, like, small talks in groups of people,
Mhm.
but in a work context, when I'm assisting somebody, they have a question and I give them the answer, and that's much less stressful than just life, where I don't know what people want in general and I don't know how to respond to them.
I imagine there's people out there who are listening to this, and you listed off some, for lack of a better word, types of people or kinds of
Mhm.
people or people with
Mhm.
this or
Mhm.
that. When you say autism,
Mhm.
your experience of having that,
Mhm.
I'm sure you have so many examples you could share about moments in which it shows up, even though you didn't have a name for it necessarily before
Oh
6 months ago.
yeah, yeah. Oh, when I look back on my entire life, it's always been there. I just didn't know what it was. For one thing, I would say that I have a pathological fear of disappointing people. That has existed my whole life and even exists today, even post diagnosis. So the diagnosis sheds light on why I feel this way, but I've spent 50 years of my life not in touch with myself, and therefore it's just a part of who I am, and now I just have to sort of accept that. But accepting that and having context makes it so much easier. But
Mm,
for instance, the relationship that I mentioned when I was in high school, where there was the person who was, telling me that, if they had courage, they would kill themselves, or if I had courage, I would kill myself. And that's sort of like that idea of like killing yourself is courageous. This is what happens. So many experiences in my life, people would say things, and I just focus on it. I take it very literally. I mean, this has affected
uh,
me throughout my life, where here's a good example. If somebody was to provide me feedback at work that's negative, I just assume I'm about to get fired, which is exhausting to always think you're going to get
mm,
fired all the time. So now that my employer knows that I have autism, when something needs to be corrected, they will give the additional information of, but you are doing fine as an employee. Can I say something about your style that is
yeah.
something I'm so jealous? I think you have a superpower.
Come on, no, hang on, hang on. Now here we go. I like the way you frame that. Let's go.
You are so good at being upset with how people who are suicidal are treated by society and by the medical community, and you get angry about it. And I'm
Yeah.
so jealous of that. I'm jealous about the ability to get angry because I want to be angry. I want to be upset. Now I'm getting emotional because I have difficulty, getting in touch with my own emotions. And so when I hear you do it, I feel like I can kind of live it through you a little bit, which is very helpful for me. And that's
Mhm.
a lot of the relationship that autistic people have. I'm not saying whether you're autistic or neurotypical or whatever, but
Mhm.
you do have this ability to express a feeling that I want to feel, and so I'm able to sort of like attach myself
I don't think anyone's ever said my anger is a superpower.
to it. It is.
Now, there are people listening probably who know me. They're caught right now. You know who by the way. They're like, "I know Sean and I know Sean's anger, and this guy just said it was his superpower?"
Mhm,
Oh, man.
mhm.
But I think I understand your point with
Right.
respect to accessing your own emotions. But what's interesting, and I don't have any diagnoses, and if I had to guess, I would say I would not be diagnosed with autism. I don't know about neurodivergence because I think that's a really broad thing.
It is
And
very
so,
broad.
but I think I have a hard time accessing other emotions.
Mhm.
Anger comes very easily to
Oh,
me,
I'm so jealous.
feeling it and expressing it, but the grass is greener or it's not, and so it's gotten me in a lot of trouble.
Right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
as they say, with great power. So.
Something popped in my head here because I don't think I can recall many times in which I was talking with someone who's so open about having autism, right?
Mhm.
And the way it presents. And obviously, you just shared a small part of that because I'm sure you could talk for a long time about your life
I
dealing
can.
with this. Sure. What would you do? What might you do if I did something while we're talking, and this may have happened already, I don't know, that you didn't get? And you say, for example, that you take most, if not everything, literally. I tend to do things that aren't literal. No, I don't even think about it.
Mhm.
What would happen if I asked you a question or I said something, do you think, and it didn't add up? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think this is related to what I said about being able to access anger. So let's say that you said something to me and it didn't make sense. I think prior to my diagnosis, and which is still so recent, it's only been about 6 months. I think prior to my diagnosis, if you said something that didn't make sense, my first instinct is I don't want to do anything to make him feel bad about himself. I would probably try to work with you maybe, but
Hmm.
like if it didn't make sense to me, I don't know. But I always start from a position of I trust you because the world makes no sense to me. So if you tell me something that doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to assume that there's something I'm not getting.
That makes sense.
But if I know something is like just absolutely factually incorrect,
Hmm.
or if I think that you're saying something that could cause harm to somebody else, and by the way, that is my red line. What people do to themselves or think about themselves is personal. If somebody is talking to me about something that could potentially, in my opinion, have a negative impact on somebody else, it provides a little more clarity for me to say, let's talk about this because I want to make sure. Let's start with the goal that like maximizing everybody's happiness is the goal. But the problem is I don't, and I'm still working on it. I'm really working on it. But like if you said something that I knew was going to be bad for me, I would probably still put your value over my own, which is a
Uh-huh.
big part of why I wanted to die so badly because I just was like, this sucks. I just want to like try to do what I can to make it
Yeah.
through.
It sounds like it's such a feeling of powerlessness.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very
And yeah,
very much so.
but also, like, when you come onto a podcast like this, my goal, my hope is that people feel, completely comfortable and don't look at me as anything other than just a dude who's curious. But there's going to be a little bit of a power dynamic for some people to start with, right? Like, he's the host, he's the guy. I've heard his voice, he's done the blah blah blah. He knows more, but that may not be true. It's not true. I don't know much at all. But so I'm saying I'm aware of that too.
Well, that's why, I mean, for me, this is really full circle because, for the past few years, I've really listened to you, on my commutes or when I'm alone and I need to hear somebody else expressing these emotions and without the pretext of I'm going to try to solve anything, but rather I'm giving a forum for people to express their feelings in as comfortable a space as possible. And so for me, I think when I was really wanting to die, which again, most of my life, 99.9%, I wouldn't have been able to call you at that particular time because I think it would have been too meta for me, if that makes sense. Now that I have a diagnosis and I'm more aware of the fact that my brain is just different than a lot of other people's brains, I'm giving myself more grace to just live in this way.
And so then that's one reason why you were able to reach out to me.
Yeah, yeah, yes. I actually never would have thought that I would have called, but I definitely would have felt like my listening was contributing to all of the people who listen and therefore sustaining the show, which I think is so important.
Was there a point between when we confirmed our meeting until the moment you hopped on Zoom that you were like, I don't think I can do this?
It would have been actually quite challenging for me after I said I wanted to do it. If you decided, you know what, I don't think I want to do this, that would have been very, very dysregulating for me
Oh,
because
okay.
like once I had it in my mind that it was going to happen, what I did was I've been playing the conversations with you over and over and over in my head.
Is the actual conversation close to the ones you were playing out in your head?
Well, I think like with the suicide note, I was thinking to myself that I don't want to like take notes or I want this to feel like a free flowing conversation. But
Yeah,
because of how my brain works, I'm just thinking about stuff all the time. But I
yeah.
did do a search. I know that I wrote like a note and it is called Suicide Noted. And when will I ever have this opportunity again?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, like the noted is obviously a bit of a play on words, but yes. Just for what it's worth, because someone out there might be listening. Well, there are people listening.
Yeah, yeah.
Never once have I made an appointment and said, I don't want to do this.
Can I give a little behind the scenes thing to the listeners that you may or may not keep in the show? When we started communicating with each other, there were some issues related to the signal, and like I was freezing and you were freezing, so we decided to turn the cameras off in order to let the audio be clearer. But for an autistic person, this is way more comfortable for me because if I just had to like look at your face, it would be a lot of me looking away from your face. So I can actually just for me be more comfortable.
I'm not laughing at you, but you just said something that really makes me laugh only because you just said, I love it. I love it. If I had to look at your face, I would be looking away from your face.
Totally. Totally.
There's
Totally.
probably other people out there who I know
Yeah.
listening to this who
If
feel the exact same way. So I know how you found the podcast. You started listening.
Right.
You reached out. You said you're you're former ideator. You shared that you wrote a note almost 2 years ago. Belt, booze. Belt booze was earlier in your life. When was the belt and the booze?
The belt and the booze was just at the end of a marriage that really was not working out. And I'm going to say that was approximately 8 years ago.
And up until that time, I know you were ideating, you said, for 99% of your life.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, does that include as a little kid?
Well, my father died when I was 13, and he was pretty absent from the time I was 6. And so when he did die, I didn't feel particularly negative about it. I felt negative that I didn't have a father figure, but I didn't feel negative about the death itself. And it just seemed logical to me that death was a reasonable way to stop feeling things that you don't want to feel. And I think maybe around that time, it made sense. Plus, I'm, okay saying my age. I am a child of, I'm a Gen Xer, and, my favorite bands were like Suicidal Tendencies. And so suicide as a part of pop culture, the music never made me want to kill myself at all. It's the complete opposite. It made me feel heard, and it actually made me feel like I wanted to be alive. But the topic of suicide was always there. And because life was so difficult for me, I think I fantasized about suicide, the same way that like you might fantasize about like a sexual fantasy that probably won't happen. It's sort of like a wouldn't it be nice if kind of thing. But it really wasn't until later in my life, like in my 30s and 40s, where it was less theoretical and much more just like popping into my brain all the time. Like it wasn't so much planning suicide, it was just visualizations of stabbing myself. Although I was self-harming when I was in middle school and stuff like that, because the physical pain was a way to distract me from my actual like mental pain.
Right. And the incident, we can call it an incident, with the belt was in your early 40s. I'm just doing the math.
Uh-huh.
Were there any, because you said it started getting stronger in your 30s and 40s. Were there other times like that?
I mean, I've definitely, I think I've had a fear of heights that's been a combination of actual fear of heights, but also that desire to want to jump. I am somebody who, can feel impetuous. And so I think for somebody, let's put it this way. If I had a gun in my house, I think there's a good chance I wouldn't be here. Because it would have been too easy. Whether it was the belt or whether it was jumping off a cliff or the stab, I don't think any of it is unhealthy per se. I think it's my body's reacting to life. And it's so important to acknowledge how our bodies react to things.
And then we go to the note, late 40s. Now, you'd said something about, I'm just trying to put a couple things together for my own brain.
Sure.
You said you had a marriage that didn't work out.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yes.
the mom of your daughter?
Yes.
And you've been married once, or you're married again?
Married once.
Okay, once was enough?
I mean, I think for me, things have to sort of like fit into certain spaces. Like the reasons why a person gets married in their 30s, it might be different from why they might want to get married in their 40s or 50s, etc. This relates actually to what you're saying. Okay. I mean, this is going to be very personal, so I will leave it to your choices about what to keep and what not to keep. But like how you were saying to me, like, what if I said something to you that didn't make sense? When I was in the marriage and it wasn't working, I was in a relationship with somebody who did not seem to particularly care about my feelings. And I was completely preoccupied with never wanting to disappoint her. But there was a certain point in our lives, after the child, and I have a job and she has a job, and things seem like they should be okay. And the big disconnect was, how come we can't start enjoying our lives? Why do we have to be mad all the time?
Mm.
And I think that was really hard. And so there was a big part of me that was like hating coming home and having somebody say mean things to me all the time. And I didn't know why.
Yeah, of course. Do you speak with her?
Yeah, we are co-parenting. I feel that our daughter is able to experience life with her and life with me, and that's two different cultures. When I say cultures, I mean like worldviews. I did have that experience where my kid said to the mom, "Stop yelling at dad," and she got mad at both of us. And I'm like, listen, the clarity that like I'm okay eating shit, but I can't watch my daughter eat shit for defending me. So I have to figure out another way. And the way couldn't be suicide, because that's not going to help my kid, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Does she know about your diagnosis? Your wife? Your ex-wife?
She does.
I don't
She
know.
she she needed to see. She didn't accept it on faith. She needed to
Uh-huh.
see documentation, but it's all there. What's weird too is I don't hate my wife. It was just an untenable situation, and I'm glad that my daughter has a relationship with her,
Yeah.
because my ex's relationship with the daughter is not the same as it was with me. And anyway, the point is that like there's a part of me that wants to make sure that wants you to be satisfied with this interview, but I know I
Mhm.
know that those feelings
Mhm.
are based on just a lifetime of masking and trying to survive.
I think people would be surprised sometimes on what is satisfying for me in terms of these conversations,
Well,
right?
I would
Like,
never presume.
well, of course, but I think that the only thing that matters is someone being honest or trying to.
Yeah.
All of the stuff inside of that, it's just part of it.
I know this is one of the questions that you ask later, but it feels like
Mhm.
an appropriate
Sure.
time to mention, assuming that this podcast works for you. I'm not going to share it with anybody except for my current girlfriend. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because I truly got so much benefit out of it. I mean, I'm also doing it for me. I mean, I really am loving being here and talking to you. You're a celebrity to me. You know, I
God.
mean, just so, and I feel bad complimenting you because I know you don't like compliments. But my goal, like ideally, I just sort of put this out into the universe, and I know that you have a platform and maybe somebody hears it. But it is something that I can share with my girlfriend because she knows that suicidal thoughts are a part of my life. I think being able to talk with her about that, and even talking to her about this podcast, I mean, it's helpful.
Yeah. Why not share it with others?
I mean, I don't want share the podcast with others. I would feel uncomfortable about sharing the podcast with others because I'm talking about aspects of my life. I don't want to do anything that could give a clue to anybody who might be hearing this, because a lot of people feel suicidal. Thank God for this podcast, but it's possible somebody could hear it and hear my voice and connect a dot, and I don't want to do anything that would get back to certainly my kid. That's the most important thing.
Sure, sure. One question I have based on something you said about a few minutes ago.
Mm,
You said you don't hate your ex.
right.
And the question that popped into my head was, do you hate anyone?
No, I'm incapable of judging people.
Whoa, 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 hold up. So what I was going with that was you said earlier something about not really getting in touch with anger, right? So that there's no anger or not in touch with anger.
Well,
Kind
I
of hard
want
to hate.
to. That's why I'm so jealous of you.
But you said something that extends even further in my mind. You don't judge. You can't judge.
I cannot judge. I suspect that the reason why I can't judge is because I've been autistic my whole. It's not the autism, it's the masking. It's a lifetime of trying to survive in this world because other people don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what people are thinking. So when things happen, I don't judge. But the other thing, and this is going to sound really weird, but I mean, when we're talking about like, I'm comfortable saying I'm Jewish, and everybody on my mom's side, grandparents related, all murdered, all murdered. Do I judge Hitler? I judge the actions. I judge the murder. I judge the actions. I don't judge the person. I can't. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get mad at somebody like there's something wrong with them. And I wish I could, because that's probably more the way the real world works. But I don't know how to
Yeah,
do that.
I don't know how the real world works, and there's certainly no one way or right way. So
Right.
okay.
I know
Like
that.
I could see how
Mm.
certain people could really take advantage of you.
Yes, and I've been in those relationships and it's been very hard. People with autism are very prone to being bullied and getting into relationships. And, with my current girlfriend, I've expressed to her about my fear of being taken advantage of the same way that I can talk about suicide. It doesn't mean that it's happening, but if I can't talk about it, then it's just something that, festers. And
Mhm.
so it's important for me to be able to talk about these things. And my girlfriend will hear this, and I love her, and I don't think she's taking advantage of me, but the fear is always there, just like the suicidal thoughts are always, or not always there like they used to be, but it's just a part of living in a world when you don't know how people act and stuff. And I should also say I'm in therapy, and that's very helpful for me being in a relationship, because I can talk to my therapist who's familiar with autistic people, and so all I'm trying to do is manage life as an autistic person in this world, and
Yeah.
knowing that I am makes it so much easier.
Wow, I bet. I want to ask you a question about December 3rd, 2023.
Okay.
Before the diagnosis, just so people know the timeline.
Yes.
And that matters a lot in terms of your life, and it was before you knew this about yourself.
Uh-huh.
You had the belt and the booze, that's what I'm calling it, because I'm
Belt and the booze.
a memoir guy, so I immediately go to, like, alliterations and stuff.
Be a good song.
Uh, That is probably a country song already. So that was about so there was about a 6-year or so gap between the belt, booze, and, the note a couple of years ago. I'm wondering, you're writing the note, you stop writing the note, you looked it over a bunch of times because that's what you do, that's what you should. People that write notes sometimes try to end their lives. They don't sometimes, and you didn't.
In my fantasy world, I write the note, I put it on the bed, and I die. But that wasn't going to happen because all of the realities of, having a kid and wanting to be a responsible person, we're all still there. So it was a kind of, I wouldn't call it role play in the sense that I wasn't completely there in that moment. I needed to experience what I would say in order to try to give some sort of like, it's not your fault. This isn't working and I don't want to deal with it anymore.
But that's where it's interesting to me, right? Like, because you say that knowing you're gonna deal with it.
Yes.
That's what,
Yeah.
like, when I say the space between, that term has come up, you may have heard it, that's what I'm talking about. It's like this space between essentially wanting to live and wanting to die, whatever the reasons are.
Yeah. Yeah. And it fluctuates all the time. And I'm sure that everybody probably at some point in their life is like, this isn't worth it. But that ebb and flow was always a big part of my life. And prior to the diagnosis, it was more, looking forward to not having to feel than feeling.
Mhm.
And it didn't mean that I didn't have good moments. I mean, there were good moments, but generally speaking, it wasn't worth a lifetime of feeling frustrated all the time. When you're autistic, you can get really tired from just being exposed to too much light, and so being completely ignorant of that when people would be mean to me and I was tired and I never had any opportunity to like power down or whatever or have any, I mean, it was sort of like in a perpetual state of freak out mode.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Did you seek therapy in your earlier years? Is that more?
I did. I did. Well, yeah. So I saw a therapist when things. So I'm so glad I'm talking to you right now because I can tell you the first thing that I said to my therapist. When I started seeing him, which therapists say, "What's the reason that you're here?" And
Mhm.
my answer was, "I need to make it to my daughter's college. No, I need to make it to her high school graduation without killing myself."
Oof. I don't love that you were in that space. I love the honesty, right?
Yeah, thank you, thank you, and
And
that's
what
when he asked me about the gun,
straight up,
straight up.
what'd you say?
I said, "I do not have a gun in the house." You're gonna probably get mad at what I'm about to tell you, but I
I
think
doubt it.
I think if I told him that I would have had a gun, I don't know that he would have saw me. I think it would have been too much of a risk.
Well, I'm not. Oh, you don't mean like I'm personally getting mad. You mean like that's a reflection of the things that get me mad, right?
That's a reflection of the things that get you mad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's important for people to know, though, that there are some therapists
Yeah.
who just can't handle it or whatever, and that's the truth.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
the truth, and some
yeah.
can, and so it's important to say some can. But if you're going to write a memoir,
Oh, I should have thought about that of all the
no, no,
things.
no, no, Cal. Here's the thing: we're going to talk about the title because
Yeah,
that's what we do. But
yeah.
I rarely get into content. But I want to tell you something, or share something with you. That is not a bad place to start that fucking memoir, my friend.
Oh.
That conversation, I wanna make it to my daughter's graduation before I kill myself, is that about right?
Yeah, I wanna make it to my daughter's graduation without killing myself.
Without killing myself. He says, "Do you have a gun?" You say, "No." I wanna know what happens next. Do you remember?
I think now that I'm thinking more about it, I think I might have even said I want to make it to 55 because I was thinking that's how old I would be when my kid graduates from, high school. I also remember saying I don't want to kill myself, but I also said and I also want to stay in this marriage until graduation for the kids' sake. That what the therapist said was that's a really long time. 55 is a long ways away. And what I got from that, and he was helpful, especially in me, in helping me get into my separation and divorce in a way that would not nearly have been as smooth. But
Mhm,
the suicide part of it, I don't really feel like he helped me out with that. And he also, didn't think I might be autistic, which in retrospect it seems pretty strange, but it was still an evolving diagnosis, I suppose. But I did not feel particularly comfortable talking to him about suicide. But now that I'm thinking about it, there were a couple of times during when I was in session with him where I did tell him I want to kill myself, and he talked to me.
mhm,
And I also called the suicide hotline a couple of times. My experience with that, honestly, I think it's good that somebody picked up the phone. I don't think that what they said was necessarily any magic words to make me feel less suicidal, but it felt more real to me because I was calling them.
right.
Like it was one step closer to actually doing it, and sort of like with the note, it's not role play. I didn't call the suicide hotline because I didn't actually want to die. So, but also when I'm feeling that way, everything is so emotionally heightened. It's hard to know what's happening.
I got a lot to say about 988 too, those hotlines. I know they do some good. They do some good. I want to acknowledge that.
I'm agnostic about it. I
Yeah.
feel like having some number is better than having no number.
I tend to agree with you. I just yeah, you know how I feel. I don't have to.
I know. I'm a fan.
I just sometimes wanna over explain to the point of over explaining because I don't wanna be misunderstood anyway. I assume I know to some degree your daughter, your therapist, your girlfriend know about your suicidality.
Yeah, my current therapist definitely does. My daughter does. When I say talking to my daughter or talking to my girlfriend. It has more to do with acknowledging that these are feelings that are normal, healthy feelings to have. A lot of my concerns and stuff, that's more for my therapist. But it's really important for me feeling there's nothing wrong with feeling suicidal. It's a feeling. It's a part of the brain.
Man, some people don't agree with you.
Well, there's also some people who think that being gay is wrong. That doesn't make them right.
Perfectly said.
Although I don't judge them.
Well, you know what? I probably judge them for the
Yes, that's
enough.
what I need you for.
I judge them enough for both of us. I have a question about your diagnosis. I'm spending a lot of time. I usually don't go this, I'm so curious about it because
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. I'm honored.
yeah, what? So you got diagnosed when you were 50
I was
years old. I think for me, and I imagine for others, that would be really mixed. Obviously, the relief of having a diagnosis and some things, at least, you just know, oh, that's why those things tend to happen. Okay. What about sadness?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest sadness associated with my diagnosis is knowing that my life would have been much better if I had known.
Right.
But to know what that even means is different because in the 70s and 80s and 90s, autism was Rain Man. There wasn't a spectrum per
Mm,
se. I think that autism diagnosis is like anything. Also, they didn't have Lipitor. Also, they didn't have laparoscopic surgery. Science is the way forward. And I am a happier, happy isn't the right word. Life is more manageable for me because I know that I'm autistic. And what it means to be autistic means there are certain commonalities between autistic people. There's subtypes. When you learn what those things are, you can also learn what techniques help. Like,
mhm.
A little bit more behind the scenes. Before this conversation, I really wanted to be present for you. And so I needed to do something that I call powering down, which means I put on a blindfold and noise canceling headphones and I laid down and I did work today, but I left work early because I wanted to be in this meeting with you. But I also knew I couldn't go right from work right to this meeting because that would be overstimulating for me. So I really needed 30 minutes to just have no sensory input. And it made it so that this conversation, which is an emotional conversation, is
Mm,
much more possible for me.
mm.
And so those kinds of techniques that keeps me from wanting to kill myself.
Well, I should say, Cal, you're crushing it, man.
Ah ha 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 ha! Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah, I mean, you're just you're bringing truth, which is great.
Thank you.
I think that's what people really want to hear. I imagine that's one of the things that you resonated with is just people being honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes the
Absolutely.
honesty is like stuff they don't talk about much or they feel super judged because people do judge a lot. Maybe not you, but a lot of people.
I won't get into it too much, but I remember there was this one episode of yours like a few years ago, and I think it was a person who was English and they were a musician, and I just felt this person is me, but in a different life.
Hmm.
And it meant a lot to me. And I've heard variations of that with different guests. If there's a chance that I can provide that for somebody else, then it's all worth it.
I know you said earlier that you like sex, music, and being silly.
I do.
Now, did you say, is that the right order?
Music is the most important thing in my life besides my kid.
What type of music do you like most?
I mean, arpeggiated folk music always makes me cry. It's so funny. It's going to sound cliche, but you know what? Even me like saying before my sentence, this is going to trying to prepare somebody because
Mhm.
that's masking. So I'm going to not mask and I'm just going to say Waltz Number 1 by Elliott Smith was what I would listen to when I really wanted to fucking go. And it helped. And the thing is, it's not even so much the lyrics, even though the lyrics are good, but it's the combination of melody and chord progressions affect me in a very emotional way. When I'm playing music, it was my one respite from wanting to die all the time was playing guitar and singing songs because the world felt like this is a purpose that made sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, you said when we started talking, the world was not meant for me.
Right.
Now, I asked you what kind of music you like most. I'm not going to ask you what kind of sex you like most.
You
We can
know,
just
I could tell you the kind of sex that I like most.
oh,
I like the kind of sex where I know that I'm satisfying my partner because then it's kind of like, no, I can enjoy myself because I'm so happy that I made her so happy.
right. Right. You probably are a great partner because you care very much about sharing with others and making them feel good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, ladies, he's taken. Let's talk about, all right, so I got a few more things I want to ask you about. I'll tell you, I want to ask you about myths. I want to ask you about memoir. I want to ask you about Pink and Purple Pill. We'll do it in that order, okay?
Okay.
But it's up to you. And then I imagine if you thought about things or maybe wrote something down, we certainly have time for you to share more.
No, it's okay. I got to share my suicide note, and that was very, very fulfilling for me.
Okay, perfect. The question around myths or misconceptions, that can be, of course, around suicide, suicidality. That could be around autism, certainly. Anything we've sort of talked about. What are what's one or two that come to mind that you want to call bullshit on?
Well, I would have difficulty calling bullshit on it something because I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I would say this isn't dispelling a myth. I just want to say that suicidal thoughts are healthy. There's
Mm,
nothing unhealthy about feeling suicidal. It is a part of the human experience, like sex and happiness. It
mm,
happens, and talking and like sadness, and it happens, and talking about it makes people feel less shame in these totally normal feelings that everybody feels to a certain degree, probably at some point in their lives. And for some people, like myself, it was a very consistent part of my life. But the fact that I didn't feel like the world was meant for me didn't mean that I didn't want the world to feel like it was meant for me. I was just acknowledging that it wasn't, and I never thought it would, and therefore suicide is a logical, response. And I don't
mhm.
feel shame in that, and nobody should feel shame in that.
Agreed. Did you tell your therapist that you were going to do this?
No, I'll probably tell her.
Mhm.
But the only person I talked to ahead of time was my girlfriend.
What did she say?
She said, "You're probably going to help a lot of people."
Oh, sweet. I like her.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah, I hope you do. Let me do the pink and purple. When I ask this question, sometimes in my
Uh-huh.
mind, I'm like, I think I know what they're gonna say.
Hmm.
I'm gonna ask you the question in full because someone might be new to the
Yes,
podcast.
of
Don't
course,
know
of
what the
course.
hell I'm talking about. And so I have this fictional pink and purple pill, and if I give this pill to Cal, if he takes it, he gently goes to sleep. He doesn't wake up. We can add that you have any kind of dream you want. Let's put that in there. You don't wake up. There's no pain in that process, and nobody knows it's a suicide. What would you do with that pill?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I always found the question confusing because if you have a pink and purple pill, doesn't that mean there's two pills?
Right.
Or maybe you could say a pill that is both pink and purple. But I wouldn't have it because I've had the desire to want to kill myself so many times in my life. The biggest reason is the not wanting to hurt other people. Now it's different because I have my diagnosis and I'm actually curious about life. If I would have had it in the past, I definitely wouldn't be here. And I can't presume that I won't feel profound sadness again in the future. But I know this, I do feel good that I'm going to die eventually. I think that it's just too black or white to have the pill that takes it all away. I feel like it's okay for people to commit suicide, but I think that they should have to work for it. I think that it should
Mhm.
be something that they think about, and maybe work on, in a medical situation. I think that the having the pill there to just do it, I'm just talking about for me. I'm not talking about for other people. So yeah, I would say I wouldn't have it because I think it's too risky for me.
I would have guessed that you were gonna save it, but when you said what you said, I'm like, "All right, yeah, that,"
Well, because there's other ways for me to kill myself.
but not as easily, and that's the point.
Not as easily, but if I was to do for me, my real life, because I understand it's a fantasy, but in real world, pink and purple pill is assisted suicide, and I think that that is a very positive thing, an important part of a healthy society.
Still a lot harder, but we don't have to debate over that.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, the point is that no, I wouldn't have it. I didn't
Yep.
mean to make you feel bad.
No. You have a fascinating brain.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's interesting how people like, and I do this all the time too, where I perceive something and the person is like, wow,
Hmm.
it's not at all what I intended, right?
Right. Yeah, of course.
And that's what you've lived with your whole life all the time.
Totally.
Yeah. Wow. That's got to be tiring.
Oh, bro. Totally is.
What are you most curious about? You said you're curious about the world, which I imagine at points in life you were less so.
Oh, yeah. I think curiosity is my version of, I mean, I almost don't even like to say happy because I feel like happy is a very just sort of like, again, that's black and white, happy, sad, whatever. I feel like it's all different shades of stuff. But
Mhm.
the shades that I'm living with now are one where now that I have context for why I feel so disconnected, I'm curious or I'm more accepting of my mind and and because autism as a diagnosis is and we're talking about evidence based diagnosis. This isn't anecdotal. There are techniques and understandings about being autistic that make it easier to live this way and actually make it so that instead of feeling like there's something wrong with me, it's just I'm different and I'm more curious now as a 50-year-old to know what it means to be an autistic person and to experience life in that way
Did you ever go to a hospital?
for for
Mhm.
for suicidal
Mm.
not I did get pneumonia because I stopped eating because I was so hyper focused on a musical score that I was working on, but that wasn't suicide per se. That was more like me just forgetting to do basic body stuff. Yeah, so I never went to a hospital for suicide.
All right. So I was thinking with you, maybe we don't do a memoir title. Maybe we do like an album title.
I mean, the booze and the belt, that's something.
It's your album, man.
Well, I like the Booze in the Belt because of the alliteration, and it sounds like a great country album or rock album. But I don't know if that reflects where I am right now. I don't have a memoir title yet because you know what? Because life is unfolding for me now, so I can't actually sum it up in a couple of words. I guess right now it's much more just about sort of like managing and being okay, but maybe in 40 years I'll be able to look back and have a better title for you.
Oh, you're going to be around in 40 years?
Oh yeah, that's the other question. I mean, I don't know, maybe hopefully
Well, your daughter graduates in 4 or 5 years.
yeah, well the high school is going to be in a few years and then hopefully college, we'll see what happens.
Because that was the thing, right? When you
That
went
was the yeah that was the thing.
sounds like you're gonna make it.
I think my chances of making it are much greater since my diagnosis. But again, I don't feel bad for feeling suicidal because it's a perfectly healthy part of the brain. But I think that my chances of living, I'm not even going to say a full life because that has judgment too, but making it into my 60s or 70s, I think that it is a higher chance now, and because life is more it's more interesting to me now,
Mm,
and I'm more curious about life. So
that's awesome. Love the curiosity around conversation as well.
I know that you're Jewish, and shouldn't matter to me one way or the other, but I do feel there is a conversational style that feels comfortable for me. It is a part of my affection for you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hmm.
My last question is if we talked again, and you can pick a day, like a period of time, because I do these update episodes now, right? Once in a while. When you imagine the future, can you imagine anything
Oh gosh, I
palpably or
mean,
tangibly different?
my diagnosis in many ways for me was a second chance at life. So it's hard for me to know what's going to happen. But I mean, I suspect that if we talk in 2 years, I probably won't be that different from how I am now. But feeling suicidal is something that I remember so clearly and something that I still feel every once in a while when even within the last 6 months after my diagnosis. But I'm hoping that I'll be more or less in the same place in a couple of years. And, so anyway, I'm always happy to talk.
Oh, I'll let you. Yeah, I'll definitely send an invite. What's the rest of your evening like?
I am going to go outside and I'm going to probably walk for about 30 minutes and just not, it's nighttime, which is good. I'm going to wear comfortable clothing and I'm just going to feel the air on my face. My girlfriend knows that, I'm having the night to myself to just not have to, you're the last person I'm talking to tonight. And the rest of
Got
the
it.
night is just going to be letting me be okay with my thoughts such as they are.
Well, I thank you for talking with me and giving me that time because I know it's precious, man, and I thank you for
Yeah.
it.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
again, thank you for what you do. It helps a lot of people. It helped me.
Nice. Do you think you'll listen to it, by the way, or share it with anyone?
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm sure my girlfriend will be very curious. But yeah, I want to hear it. I'll tell you one thing that would have been very different if we had this interview even 7 months ago is I would be speaking differently. I
Oh,
speak now in a way that is more how my brain actually thinks.
okay.
Whereas before I would have been so consumed with not wanting to make you feel uncomfortable that I wouldn't speak this way. It would be a more my concept of what a generic person talking is like. So it would still be
Right.
me, but it would be certainly less. I would feel less comfortable.
That's the masking, right?
That's the masking. Yes.
Well, it's an honor to me, and I mean this, that you trusted me enough to not mask.
Ah, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, that's a
And the
big
truth
deal.
is that that even in this conversation, there's always a little bit of masking. So it's not a 100% no, but it is so much less than I've ever experienced in my
Mm.
life. And to be able to share this with you, somebody who's really helped me feel not alone and not shitty, is really big for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. One final word I want to tell you, and I mean this 100%. There was not one moment throughout this entire conversation that I felt an ounce of discomfort. Not one.
Oh, thank you. Oh, now I'm gonna cry.
Nah, man, we're good, and
We're good.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Enjoy your walk.
All right, man. Take care.
As always, thanks so much for listening, and special thanks to Cal in California. Thanks, Cal. And oh, by the way, Cal sent me an email after we talked. He has got his official memoir title. Check the show notes if you'd like to see what that title is. If you are a suicide attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. Check the show notes in the podcast description and the website to learn more. All kinds of things about this podcast. Check the Spotify poll, one or maybe sometimes twice a week, to answer the pink and purple pill question. Of course, a 5-star rating on Apple helps a lot. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. I hope you're doing okay. That's all for this week's episode. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I will talk to you soon.